Ooh. Oh, so scary, man. Uriah Heep, innocent victim. Ooh, 1977. And this album is weird. It's more interesting than good, but it definitely has moments. Um, it is not as good as Firefly, and it ain't even close to as good as Fallen Angel, the album that would come after it. The final album with John Lawton singing. But I love this cover, man. Uh, in America, I saw this album and people said this wasn't released, but there were people that had this. Had some other cover that I didn't like. It looked like a live album or something, but I know this album from this cover. The Snake. Um, there was a guy at South High that had this album, and I remember I listened to it. We were just kicking it, and I didn't like it. I was like, "This sucks." I can't believe how shitty this album is. I remember being like, a kid and thinking these first three songs suck on this album. And at the time then I said this sounds like country or like like up tempo Blue Oyster Cult mixed with the Eagles, or like kind of really if the Steve Miller Band was really shitty, that's what I was saying, man. Then, when I first heard this album, and I'm sure others said something like that too. But you know, the reality over the years is this album began to grow on me, and I started to like not just the first three songs, kinda, but then it's got these other killer songs like Illusion that are just amazing. Very much a Uriah Heep uh, sounding song. The singer here, who was so good on Firefly, takes a step down on this album, even though, he's still talented and really good. Lawton. But he is no David Byron, man. And see, by this point, there were people getting pissed at Uriah Heep for getting rid of Byron. And patience was starting to get thin with this band. And this album exposed that and highlighted that dangerously. But really looking at this album in history, it's not that bad. And it's a solid 7.5. And if you're in the mood, man, you might really like this album and give it an 8. Because even though the first few songs, and there's a couple other songs that aren't that good, most of this album, if you really break it down, it ain't bad, man. It's good shit. It ain't as good as Fallen Angel. The next album is incredible. Sounds like the Moody Blues meets Dio, or like Queen meets The Who and ELO, or so. It's just fucking insane, that album, Fallen Angel. It's got acoustic, like easy listening songs, but somehow they work. And all these backing vocals, the band seems so dedicated to the backing vocals on Fallen Angel, but on this album, Innocent Victim, they're not as dedicated, man. But there's still interesting stuff all over this album. I mean, it's definitely got, good shit happening. I mean, I'm not gonna like, you know the one song I don't like on this album uh is Roller. It's all right, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's if in some happy mood, you might like it. But Free and Easy, um, sounds like Dio singing with, you know, it's a proto like weird ass heavy thing, man. Um, it's cool, man. It's a good track. It's just too short. You know how the songs on Wonderworld, a couple of the songs just cut out and they could have been better. Kind of like Something or Nothing, man. That track seems too short. But then the killer track number 5, Illusion, has those fucking insane keyboards, man. The keyboards are badass on that song. Fuck, that song Illusion is badass. And over the years, man, this album gets a little better. But the problem with this album is you're gonna like Firefly way more. And if you really listen to Fallen Angel, you're gonna fucking love that album. That will become like your favorite Uriah Heep album, at least for sure post David Byron, Fallen Angel. This album, Innocent Victim, in many ways is like a demo tape. Like the band seems a little lost. That being said, man, they're still nailing it on all kinds of shit here, man. Um, Free Me, interesting little tune, man. Interesting, could be like a hit song, but I would have liked to done a few things, man, with that track a little better. And you know, Cheat and Lie though is badass. Like Jefferson Starship, Boston and Sticks, and you know, the dance killer intro, man. It's an interesting track. And the song choices I fucking love, man. It builds into this intense shit. And then you got these bonus tracks that are badass, man. I never really heard a lot of these. They're pretty fucking killer, man. Innocent Victim. And the cover is iconic, man. That fucking snake is badass at 1-800-449-8255. I would still vote the song Illusion as one of the best Uriah Heep songs, even with or without David Byron. And this album, it has its moments, and depending upon your mood, you might really like this album. Sometimes I've listened to this and I like it, but why Uriah Heep was doing this West Coast country, like these jangly little, I don't know, sounds almost like if Blue Oyster Cult was happy. There's a few of those songs dotting throughout this album. And it's almost like they're giving up on this album, man. They're petering out like they do on some albums like Wonderworld, and Return to Fantasy has some tracks that could have been more developed. Return to Fantasy is a fucking killer album, though. I almost appreciate it and accept it exactly for what it is. But I think Innocent Victim could have been a lot better. That being said, man, this album is fucking interesting. And even the little country tunes, like Skinner, like a cheesy Skinner or something. I'm like, what is Uriah Heep doing? And the singer, he doesn't really go with those country little up-tempo tracks. Lawton is geared towards like Paul Rogers, Ronnie James Dio, Coverdale, like this kick-ass, strong vocals. And they got him singing almost like country with these cheesy backing vocals, and they try to dress it up with arrangements like bells and whistles and try to add little drumming and little interesting things to the song to keep you interested. They do it on a bunch of songs here on this album, but The next album, they don't need any bells and whistles, man. Every fucking song on Fallen Angel is interesting. And even the kind of shitty mellow tunes where they get too acoustic and kind of like the Moody Blues or the Who, or, when they're acoustic, are still killer, man. Just like the Who, like on Tommy, how they have these shitty, like mushy, lousy songs, but they're so real in the lyrics and they're so riveting. Like, Pete is such a rock and roll songwriting 101 guitar genius or something. Like, Pete's not that good on guitar. He's no Mick Box. But his fucking rock and roll acumen is the highest in rock and roll. And even the cheesy acoustic Who songs from the Who Sell Out and Tommy, they rivet you, man, because they touch your soul with the lyrics. And that's how Fallen Angel from Uriah Heep is. They really nail it on all cylinders on that incredible album. But on this album, Innocent Victim, sometimes they come close, man. They're demoing, they're trying some new ideas, and they're working out. It's just they're trying to do something new, and I appreciate it on this album, Innocent Victim. And the cover of this album is so killer, man. It almost makes this album a classic and saves this album just for this snake, like, that looks so like scary, man. I fucking love this snake, man. I love the cover of Innocent Victim. It's a better cover than Firefly. I don't really like Firefly's cover. It's like kind of this feminine purple firefly with some guy riding it, but I think it was also their way of saying, there goes David Byron, he's off flying the Firefly, goodbye, Dave, kind of thing. And then, it kind of works with that album. But this cover, man, is badass iconic. I love this artwork, this snake on Innocent Victim. I also like the art with that chick, man, on Fallen Angel, because she looks so strong, and she's got a boar's head, like she just slayed her dinner in a nest. The chick is a badass on Fallen Angel. She's got like a big ass knife. It's like bloody. And she's this big woman with these big thighs. It's just realistic, man. It's like Fallen Angel, but then you listen to the music and it's like this rock opera, all connected, like concept that's so brilliant that this album, Innocent Victim, just does not have, man. But there is killer shit here. You listen to this album just for the track Illusion, and let me tell you, man, listen to this track for Choices. Nice little song. The dance, interesting. Cheat and Lie is really fucking nice song, man. I think it tries to sort of be the big hit on the album. It's like Jefferson Starship meets Boston Sticks and, I don't know, man, Dio. And I don't like the fact that they kind of rip off a Ricky Nelson track in Cheat and Lie. Sounds a little too much like Garden Party, that song. But I can dig it, man. It's, Free Me could have been a bigger hit. That should be on the radio. Like Joe Benson at KLOS should have been playing that track. I know that Payola, and I know there's Payola, man, on FM radio that, like, exists. And this album, Innocent Victim, it's ironic because it could be an Innocent Victim where Uriah Heep didn't have the money to do the payola to get some of these nice songs on the radio. The Who have all this money, so do the Stones and Zeppelin. And, the Who can put out just fucking garbage and put it on the radio. And so can the Stones, The Stones got all those albums like Black and Blue and, Emotional Rescue and just this shit, that sucked. Still good, it's the Stones, but Uriah Heep, man, they're a great band. And Innocent Victim, even though it's not as good as it could have been, it doesn't measure up to Uriah Heep. It's still fucking pretty good, man. And I wish they would have listened to Clark the Shark from GE, but I was only 11 years old, man, when this album came out. So I couldn't advise them, but I could have developed those little country Grateful Dead like Eagles tracks and made them more interesting, souped them up with some bells and whistles. And but I fucking could not improve on Illusion. Man, that song is awesome. Uriah Heep, Innocent Victim, 1977, the second David Lawton album. There's no David Byron here, man. And the natives were getting restless. But, you know, I can appreciate this album. And you listen to this over and over, and you're going to find lots of new things in this record, man. I can dig it. At 1-800-449-8255. Uriah Heep, Innocent Victim. What would this have been like with David Byron? It would have been fucking killer, some of these songs. If they could have worked it out with Dave, man. His drinking, his drug use. Because the guy was just this flamboyant lead singer. Amazing. And Mick Box and Hensley fired the guy. And fuck, man, you don't fire a guy like David Byron at 1-800-449-8255. You listen to Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect. And baby brother, I tell you, you keep David Byron. This guy John Lawton is interesting, man. He's got a fucking great voice. But that's all he's got. You know, he doesn't have that frontman flamboyant rock and roll, like crazy, funny, weirdo. You know, David Byron moves all over the stage. He's like Bowie or something, or Mick. And he's funny, dude. He's always just falling down like a retard. And Mick Box and Hensley and the other guys were like, you know, Dave, he's always drunk and he's just weird and he's wrecking the band. And it wasn't true, man. David Byron could have gone to rehab, got some help, man. Got off drugs, got off alcohol, got his life together, and he would have been incredible in the Heap at 1-800-449-8255. But they fired the guy. And what's so sad is the guy died, man. He basically killed himself on alcohol, you know, many years after the Heap. But I blame the Heap for that, man. I blame probably Hensley and Box, but I don't want to hate the guys because they had to do what they had to do. They had to move forward. But going forward, man, without the incredible, immortal David Byron, that'd be like the Who going without Roger Daltrey, or, you know, you don't do that, man. It's like the Beatles without John Lennon or something. But, you know, Lawton came along with this Paul Rogers Dio, this strong voice that blows the paint off the walls. But he is no Byron, man. David Byron is irreplaceable, unreplaceable. He was incredible. At 1-800-449-8255. But Innocent Victim. You know, it sounds like they rushed through this album. They rush recorded it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did. I don't know. It definitely has its moments, man. There's some good shit happening on this album. But I'd give this like a 7.5. I'd love to give this album an 8 or an 8.1, and in some good moods I might. But these country little tracks, man, these little Skinner up-tempo things at the start, kill it for me, dude. I mean, kill it in a bad way. Should have had like Illusion be song number 1. Or one of those other killer-ass keyboard-driven Hensley tracks. But they started this album cheap, man. They're okay songs, but that's the problem. They're good. They're not great. And with Uriah Heep, you got to be great, man. You got to be fucking incredible to be Uriah Heep. You got to be like even High and Mighty with, you know, One Way or Another with Wettin'. It was more interesting than this album, and that song's not even that good. But there is nothing on this album like Weep in Silence. No way. And there's nothing like as good as Firefly or The Hanging Tree. This album is a step down, man. Still fucking killer, because I love Uriah Heep, and I will listen to this album And this fucking album cover is just badass at 1-800-449-8255. Um, yeah, man, a good solid album. Uriah Heep, Innocent Victim, not great, but the band were about to get really great. Uh, some great albums, man, coming in the future from this band. I even kind of like Conquest. It's got some cheesy adult contemporary songs, like the opening track that sounds like Hall & Oates or Supertramp or Elton John or something. But it's interesting because Uriah Heep are always interesting. They're always trying new things. There's a lot of diversity in the sound of Uriah Heep. It's not just heavy metal or hard rock, or they do all this shit, man. Even when they do the lame country shit, it's interesting. And the acoustic stuff, the keyboard stuff, there's a lot of diversity. I love the variety of Uriah Heep. Of course, those first 8, 9 albums with Byron. Unbelievable that people talk about Led Zeppelin, you know, when there's Uriah Heep in existence, my friends. 1-800-449-8255. I wish they didn't get rid of David Byron. I wish David Byron was on these 2 albums, man. But I almost feel like Fallen Angel. I like Lawton on that album. I like the whole album, man. And I think Uriah Heep got rid of Lawton because maybe they didn't like Fallen Angel, but I dig that album. I like all the acoustic. It's not really a hard rockin' album. It's good music. Fallen Angel is solid, whereas this album, Innocent Victim, has some kick-ass hard rock on it. And it also has that brooding keyboard thing, and it may be too diverse, too much variety on this album for its own good. But it's solid, man. Nothing by Uriah Heep is bad. They're a solid band. At 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. That's my review of 1977, late 1977, Uriah Heep, Innocent Victim, with the iconic, incredible cover with that snake. Man, look at that cover. It's fucking scary. Kick-ass cover. I remember this cover and I wanted to hear this album just for the fucking cover, man. It's badass. 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. Clark the Shark from GE, The Greenhouse Effect, doing the reviews, baby. I'm going to get into some more albums. Rock on.